Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is the Mazda CX-30, and for 2025 they've made its engine bigger, which just doesn't happen anymore. So today I'm going to find out if it's any good and why they've done that. Let's start with the exterior design here at the front. What Mazda has done with all of their range at this point basically is make some of the cleanest looking cars on the roads today. They call this Kodo. It's apparently inspired by Japanese architecture or horses or origami, something like that, something incredibly Japanese. Really, really light on detail, just lots of beautiful surfaces on the front of this car. You do get the kind of big chrome mustache that's the Mazda face, and because this is a crossover, obviously you get a black lower bumper to denote off-roadiness. The one piece of detail I love, and it pretty much is the only piece of detail, is in the lights. The actual light cluster itself is kind of formed to look like a retro rocket booster from a sci-fi novel in the 50s. I absolutely love that. Now down the side, what you'll see is this actually bears a striking resemblance to the Mazda 3 hatchback, to actually any hatchback really. If someone else made this, they would call it a crossover coupe, but Mazda has more class than that. It's actually slightly shorter than the 3 that it shares its platform with, although obviously it's slightly taller, which should make up for the space on the inside. We'll obviously talk about that later. Let's talk about the detail here. Obviously Kodo again, so some nice body forming here over the doors. This colour, I actually don't like it that much. It's kind of a flat silver, Nardo grey adjacent, but it does a really good job of kind of highlighting just how smooth and gorgeous this design language is. I personally would look to get one of these in the lovely Mazda Soul Red it's available in. 18-inch black alloy wheels are fitted to this Homura trim car as standard. Good news for those of you who don't like black alloys. Other options are available, but these are the free ones. And there's actually 5 different trims, but I'll explain them at the back. Just before I get onto trims though, I did want to point out that cool lighting element is also replicated in the rear lights. Slightly harder to see because of the red tinted glass, but it is there. On the rest of the exterior, obviously we've got our badge here. We've got the engine badge, Skyactiv-G. This is available with a G or an X engine, and real exhaust pipes, which is an indication of the sort of engines that those might be. Trims. It's split across 5. I find Mazda's trim naming convention hard to follow at the best of times, but I'm going to try and get these in the correct order. I believe it goes Prime Line, Center Line, although I want to say Central Line like the tube, Homura, Exclusive Line, Takumi. This confuses me because there are other models where Homura and Takumi are the 2 top ones, or there's like a Homura and Takumi Plus above them. Anyway, those are the trims, this is the middle one. That's the important thing. And it gets an electronic opening boot lid as standard, which is lovely. Underneath that boot lid, we find 430 litres of space, which is more than you'll find in pretty much any family hatchback. So plenty of room for kind of 2 adults and 2 kids. There's not really anything super clever going on here. You've got a little bit of storage under the floor, but the floor itself is kind of set down at one level. There is quite a large loading lip, which I'm fine with, but obviously if you don't like picking things up, this won't be the car for you. The seats do fold down 60-40 and there is a continuous load floor, although there's a kind of a hump to get up, but it's a smooth transition, as it were. Then space expands to over 1,000 litres. I would just point out, because this is quite hatchback shaped, it's still very practical, but it's not as tall an opening as you may get on some of the rivals. So larger bits of furniture, for example, may be a struggle, even if you've got all the seats down. Let's, though, get into the back and see if it's a struggle to fit a larger Harry in there. Well, I've got to admit, it's not brilliant. My right leg is quite crushed between this driver's seat and the door. This is in my driving position. I'm 180 centimetres tall, or 5'11", whichever takes your fancy. I can just about sit up, like bolt upright. Not that you ever would sit like that. I would probably like to slouch if there was more room to slouch into, but never mind. In terms of seat comfort and materials, they're nice, soft, squishy seats. They're decently supportive as well for rear seats. And they're in this lovely cloth with red stitching on this mid-level Homura trim. Practicality wise, I've got door pockets. I have one seat back pocket on the passenger side, couple of air vents. I've got Isofix. I've got a fold down armrest here in the centre with a couple of cup holders in it. And that's about it. Let's see what it's like in the front. Up here is where things get really impressive. So, as I've mentioned, there's 5 trim levels, and they actually range from, in terms of price, competitive with mass market rivals from VW, Skoda, Ford, up to more comparable to vehicles like the Volvo XC40 or the Lexus LBX. And then even in this mid-spec car, I think this interior rivals those premium vehicles. I mean, there's just soft touch and leather everywhere. Everything is beautifully put together and super solid. I've got a nice thin-rimmed leather steering wheel. I like all of the tech stuff that goes on in Mazda. So this is and isn't a touchscreen. Most of the time, it's not a touchscreen. So Mazda's native system is all commanded through this kind of central control down here. But if I press up, I can access my wireless Android Auto, and then I can touch the screen when the car isn't moving as kind of the base setting. You can adjust in the settings the ability to use the touchscreen all the time if you want to, but it's kind of too far away to have been used like that anyway. So even though that's an option, you revert to using this control anyway, and actually it's really quite good. Some of the layout on Android Auto doesn't really work with it, but the native system within the car works really well just off this control, and it's pretty quick as well. I don't love the UI, it does look a little bit dated to me, but I think you'd be more than happy using this to actually get around. And obviously it's worth mentioning that wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, I believe, is fitted to all trims as standard. I also get a wireless Qi charger. I've got 2 cup holders in front of the gear stick, which means I can change gear without impediment, as it were. My little infotainment controls down here, including a proper rotary volume knob as well. Got proper climate controls up here on the dashboard too, again with rotary knobs. We like to see this. The infotainment is just that, infotainment. Steering wheel, proper buttons on it, including infotainment controls and cruise controls. I've got a really big center armrest which slides backwards and then lifts up to reveal quite a large center armrest storage space with 2 USB-Cs and a 12-volt socket. You can get another wireless charger fitted in here as well if you want to just have all the wireless charging in the world. I will say the operation of this, though, does irritate me because you can't lift it up in the forward position. You have to slide it back and then you have to lift it up. But that means that the back of it's jutting into the passenger area. So if someone's got their knee next to the back seats, you're going to kind of spear it into them, unfortunately, to get this open, which isn't ideal. I've also got a nice big glove box, which is pleasantly damped as well. And I want to call out some of the interior design because they keep referring to this as the symmetrical cockpit. The only symmetry I can find is that the driver's air vents are like this round the driver. So they're sort of symmetrical for the driver, and then the passenger gets this kind of planar affair. Apparently it's supposed to feel light and airy over here and focused and cocooning here. But obviously, in terms of symmetry, all of the centre of the car is off to your left. So I don't know what they mean particularly. I mean, a lot of the controls in general, I guess, are symmetrical if we want to go down that route. I can't think of a car where they're not, though. So anyway, that's that's Mazda and their whimsy, their Kodo, all of that stuff that comes out. Also on this trim level, though, I do want to point out I get heated seats as standard, which is lovely. Even though these are cloth, you can upgrade these to leather. Higher trim levels get leather as standard, including a white leather interior as an option. You can get a heated steering wheel. Also, the seating position's brilliant. I can adjust it every which way I need to. It is just manual. In this, I believe you have to go all the way up to the top trim to get electric seats as standard. But even with the manual controls, there's lots of variability in them. The only thing I can't do is adjust my lumbar support, but actually the seats are very comfortable, and I've not had an issue with them on longer journeys, so I'm not too worried about that. There's lots and lots of really nice touches in here that make it a real true rival to premium crossovers. Let's find out, though, how it drives. Okay, driving the CX-30. Let's start by going back to my comment about the engine. So, there's two engines available here. Skyactiv-G, which is the entry-level engine, which this has, and Skyactiv-X. The Skyactiv-X engine remains unchanged. It's 186 PS, 2-litre naturally aspirated four-cylinder. This, though, has gone from being a 2-litre naturally aspirated four-cylinder to a 2.5-litre naturally aspirated four-cylinder. There's still no major hybridization going on here. I believe there's a little bit of mild hybridization, but I believe there was before. What Mazda have done is enlarge the combustion chamber to enable them to get a cleaner burn. So even though this engine is larger and more powerful, Mazda claim that it's better in the real world on economy. And I've got to say, the figures do somewhat back that up. I've watched a couple of reviews of the previous engined car where it was achieving around 37 mpg with the Skyactiv-G engine. This one, though, if I scroll round to info, is currently getting 44.4 mpg and has been doing over the past 214 miles or so. So no downsides. More power, more grunt, better economy. You can actually also, weirdly, order this with a sports exhaust. This is, though, where I think things start to fall down, because steering, the weight's lovely. I've got kind of proper, I mean, a bit numb on centre, but a proper heft to the steering. This gearbox is really nice. The clutch is a good engagement as well. The brake feels nice and firm, like you can really modulate it, and the throttle's got a decent weight to it too. I can hunker right down in this car if I want to. I mean, you can raise yourself all the way up with the seat adjustment as well, but I really like how you can feel hunkered down in here. It really is like driving a hatchback, just with a little bit of extra tyre travel, I guess, suspension travel, but it's very hatchback in feel in the cabin, which kind of lulls you into this impression, along with the 2.5-litre naturally aspirated petrol engine and the real exhaust and the optional sports exhaust, that this is going to be really great to drive. And I want to be clear, it's not bad to drive, but it's just a little bit numb, and you can feel that it's a little bit too tall, and it kind of makes you think, oh, I wish this was a Mazda 3 right now. And I don't think that's a bad thing in a small crossover, but nearly all of Mazda's other crossovers do pretty much hit the mark on being on the sporty end of their respective segments. This one, it's got more feeling and engagement when you're driving around at normal speeds, but when you really start to push, there's a weird kind of lull in the turning. The body doesn't roll that much, but just there's like an initial shuffle that's a bit awkward. And while the steering has a really good weight to it, it doesn't have a brilliant amount of feel. I would also expect a vehicle with 140 PS that only weighs 1.5 tons to feel fairly urgent down the road as well, and it doesn't. Now, obviously, naturally aspirated means the torque isn't as present as it would be with a turbo unit with the same power. I do only have 238 newton meters of torque, which is a significant improvement on the outgoing engine, but it's not like driving a turbo car. You do have to wring it out to get the power, and the engine can sound quite harsh, and it never feels really punchy. You do get up to speed decently, but the outright figures tell a story. This takes something like 9.7 seconds to get to 62, which is quite a long time. I mean, under 10's fine in the segment, but again, that just kind of gets in the... Ooh, okay. But again, that just sort of gets in the way of this being maybe just a little as good as it could have been. It's a little bit of curvy road up here. If I just push on a bit, it's the one other problem, which is not the most grip. You can feel the tyre starting to go at 10 under the speed limit here. Now, that's not the point of a car like this, but it might be what you want if you're looking to buy a Mazda, so I feel that it's worth highlighting. I want to say in general, The suspension's on the firmer side, but the damping's very good. You don't wobble on for too long. You can feel some shocks in the cabin though when you're going over a broken surface. Otherwise, it's a pretty smooth, pretty refined ride. This engine, being a 4-cylinder and slightly larger, doesn't make as much of a racket as some of the 3-cylinder options in the segment do. On the motorway, it's a dream. You get radar cruise control pretty much as standard on everything, even the manuals, which is nice to see. So it's a good motorway cruiser, and with that MPG you won't be missing the fact that it's not a hybrid or a diesel. So all in all, a very, very compelling family car, and an excellent proposition from a money to luxury point of view. But just where Mazda sometimes has the edge on driving engagement, it's not quite there. I think it's still a very worthy car though, and well worth checking out if you want a nice premium crossover experience. Let's not go any further though, let's go back and do a quick conclusion. So, that is the CX-30 tested, and what am I thinking? Well, I think if you want a premium small crossover, this offers incredible value for money. The interior is gorgeous. It can trick you into thinking it's a driver's car. It's got all of the right bits on it, but it just isn't quite there. But I think if you want a very premium, luxurious small crossover experience, this is a great place to go and look. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, tell me what you think about the CX-30, and most importantly, go and subscribe to Buckle Up. If you go down into the description, you can find lots of ways you can help support the channel. We'll have all of our social medias linked down there. We also have 2 ways you can directly support the channel. We have merchandise and we have memberships right here on YouTube. So please go and do one or all of those things, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.